America, my name is Osei-Frimpong, and I'm going to give you the quick case for a strategic job demotion. It's not obvious that demotion's the most important thing you should do for your family or for your job or for your piece of life or to wrestle a meaningful life in this world full of woe and want. So I'm going to give you the quick case for a strategic demotion. The case for a strategic demotion presumes that money isn't the best thing you can do for your family if you can't buy the quality of institutional instruction for your family, right? So a lot of people get caught in the brainworm of, they call it neoliberalism, the extension of market principles to all aspects of life, where they think that the best thing they can do is just go out and make money, and then buy institutional instruction for their children. The problem is you send your kids to these institutions, and the institutions have their own interests, right? So they might have a quality of technical expertise, but they have their own interests. And if you're black, this gets a little bit hot because there aren't too many institutions whose interest is black liberation. And so the best thing for your time might not be to make money to send your kids to fancy institutions, but to actually do the direct teaching and direct investment in your kids yourself, which means you have to learn a lot of things. So you lose a little bit of specialist training, but first of all, the specialists aren't particularly great for black kids. And also you get a little bit of a grace because you're the parent. So there is a way in which you can be a little bit harder or they'll listen to you a little bit more than in a class of like 30, right? So the strategic demotion came to my mind when I thought about my own youth and my uncle, who was by far the best parent of children in the set of family and family friends. And he used to joke about how he was a parole officer, and he used to joke about how they were trying to promote him out of his job. And he had figured out a way to kind of work his job. So, he was always available. He was always available. He filled out paperwork. This is before remote jobs and all of that stuff, but he was just very good at being available. So if I needed to get picked up from school, my mom was working. She was a nurse, so, in the ICU. So she was always just working. And by that time, my dad and my mom had split. So he was just always available if I needed to get picked up from school. If someone needed to get picked up from the airport, my uncle was available. If someone needed help moving, my uncle was just always available. And like I said, he was also the best parent of all of our family and family friends. And a lot of it was the time and attention and his understanding of strategic demotion and not taking the promotion and not thinking that money would solve all of his problems to secure a meaningful life. Because I'll be honest, if you screw up your kids, it doesn't really matter how much money you have. First of all, you're going to be spending all that money, or you're going to need it all in reserve, because screwed up kids cost an infinite amount in their adulthood. You'll spend it on divorce lawyers. You'll spend it on too expensive weddings. You'll spend it on your screwed up grandkids, because your screwed up kids are not going to be very good parents. So there was a way in which taking 10 years from 3 to 13 and just taking the demotion at that time and finding a way to take the demotion, but being there for your kids, is probably the best thing you could do for your family. More important than any kind of monetary advantage you think you could kind of squeeze out of your life, right? Listen, you're black in the United States. Your job is not going to be that fulfilling. I mean, as important as it is, and I was teaching and all of that, but it's not going to be as meaningful as the work I started doing with my kids. And I really started it in earnest with the pandemic, but on through, I just kind of decided that I'm going to shepherd them through this time. And it's been really great for them. And it's been fine for me. And if you want me to keep doing it, I think you should go ahead and go to www.funkyacademics.com and kick in $5, $15, or $50 a month. And I'll keep doing what I'm doing. And I'm giving you kind of a nighttime show now. Put all the kids down, and I feel like I should give the kind of the people what they want. the nighttime. It's a little bit late, so I guess in California you're seeing me because I suspect on the East Coast are probably in bed. But think about the strategic demotion and think about what you need to do for your family. It's not necessarily money, especially this generation where I just see that the assumption is that if you spend all your time making money, you can pay for a quality of education for your kid that you couldn't if you delivered it a little bit more yourself and you took the demotion and you delivered it yourself. But I'm telling you, that's just not the truth. And you need to keep eyes on your kids. You need to keep these professionals you expect to teach them are not going to teach them, especially if they're black. There is not a professional institution in these United States that's actually good at teaching black kids. So you need to, like I said, what I do is I use the schools for daycare, and then everything that I expect my kids to actually know, I teach them myself. Like, for example, my 9-year-old and I were talking about cause and effect tonight, and I, was giving her the argument that actually the effect is the cause of the cause, right? So if A causes B, you don't want to call B just the effect. B is the cause of A being a cause. And without that, it would be, and without that, without A, B is not an effect. And without B, A is not a cause. So A is not merely a cause, it's also an effect of B. And it's kind of collapsing cause and effect with her. It kind of blew her mind, but it's what I can do as a philosopher for her, and I guess what I can do for you. But mostly it's not something that she's going to get for at school, because I'm at school they're just going to talk about cause being one thing. Going one way, and I'm saying actually it's more of a relationship. And so what we need to talk about is relationships between A and B, and not just that A is the cause of B, because if A is the cause, the only way that A is a cause is if B is an effect. That means B is the cause of A being a cause. And so what we're talking about deeply is a relationship. All right, so go ahead and go to www.funkyacademic.com, and I'll keep kind of giving you this kind of quality of wisdom, but I'm trying to protect your family and not have you kind of get suckered or suborned or conscripted into a civil society that wants you to work and wants you to go and earn and earn and earn and earn and earn, and convince you that earning and earning and earning and earning is the best thing you could do for your family. But what you need to do is figure out, work, figure out a nice way to then cut back when your kids are 3 to 15 to make sure that you can coach teams and keep your eyes on your kids and kind of shepherd that growth for them. Like, be there during summer camp. Like, this doesn't have to be the case if you feel like an Orthodox Jew surrounded by Orthodox Jews and all the institutions work and you got this, Jewish summer camp. Like, if every institution in your life and your family is kind of on the same page and has a disposable income to actually realize a quality of community that doesn't require intensive parenting, you might not need to take the demotion. But if you're black or if you're just kind of normal, every institution's not going to be for you in the same way. So you need to start thinking about the strategic demotion and playing the long game. You can get back in the money game after your kid turns 13 or 14, especially if your kid if you've done the job between 3 and 13, you have an awesome 13, 14-year-old. Like, they can help you in the money game. You can get in the money game later. But I do think we're overly casual with the assumption and the idea that's been implanted into us and marketed to us that the best thing we could do for our kids is make money, and not like, I don't know, take a demotion, move to a cheaper area and game life that way. And I'm not saying homeschool your kids. I'm saying don't fall for the trap of trying to provide a lifestyle that is not going to deliver a quality of wisdom that you would want in your kids. Like the fanciest school and the fanciest neighborhood and the fanciest all of that isn't necessarily going to do it, especially for your black kid, right? So take the financial hit, go to a cheaper place. Like, for example, right now I think I'm in the best location I could be for my kids. Like, in terms of cultural richness, I would like the Bay Area, California, but if I were in the Bay Area, California, I would be stressed out because everything would cost so much. Right now, I live next door to a high school. I am 3/4 of a mile away from my kid's junior high school and 1 mile away from my other kid's elementary school. So where I can use the high school for and a half mile away from a Kroger. So everything is in like really close distance. So I can use the high school for fields, and they got a nice tennis court now too. And so I can use the high school for fields. I'm next door. I can drop off and pick up my junior high schooler really quickly because it's only 3/4 of a mile away. There's a zipper there, zipper back, and in a pinch, you could bike there and bike back. It's easy. And there's a Kroger and a Publix 3/4 of a mile away. All of that's less than a mile. And everything is very close. So that quality of life I couldn't get in Northern California. Not for Athens prices, and I'm in Athens, Georgia right now. So we need to think about what that means. And my wife and I were calculating, we're living like a $600,000 a year life on a lot less than that. $600,000 if we're in New York, with respect to the size of our house and all of that, and the location of our setup. And we kind of gamed our family out pretty well with respect to picking where we should set up base. And I'm telling you now because we had to deny a lot of advice from well-meaning people who would have put us in the wrong neighborhood, going to the wrong schools and the wrong setup, right? So think proximity, in a pinch walking distance, and you don't want to be stressed out about your bills. So take the demotion. Every urban area, like every suburban area, like, and not necessarily suburban, but suburban, like small city, is going to have a place that's stigmatized unfairly. Look for that place because it might be actually close to a lot of amenities you need. The unfairly stigmatized. So go there. It's not going to be where the cool kids are, but the cool kids are often bad parents. And the cool kids' parents are often bad. Go to the slightly stigmatized area with good public amenities around, and that's close to what you need. Even if it's not necessarily nice, but it's close. The school is close. The Publix and the Kroger and all of that, the shopping center is close. And I think your quality of life goes up, and you won't need the money. You won't need the extra money. So just be savvy in your life because nobody cares about your kids like you do. All of the marketing and civil society that wants you to work, and then tell you that your money will raise your kids instead, that's a con, and you don't figure it out until your kids are older, and you realize, I should have kept a closer eye on them and stayed home and been there when they got home from school and picked them up and had a little bit more flexible schedule. If you got a Zoom job now, just keep it. Just keep it. Don't go for the promotion. Move to someplace cheaper, but also close to your kid's school and all of that stuff, and just raise your kids. Go for the promotion later. Not enough people will tell you that, but raise your kids. And actually raise your kids. Don't just kind of give them a device and hope for the best, because the device is just another, we don't do real screens in this house. The device is just another trap that people will tell you isn't bad for them, but it's obviously bad for them. like it's obviously bad for them. So take the demotion, be there for your kids, like work out with them, coach them, practice with them, like show them how to be whole people. I'm going to do a video on this probably in a week or so. I'm going to work with my kids now on start doing to-do lists in the daytime, because nobody ever told me how to do that. And I feel like that would be a good thing, for one, to make my kids better than I am, which is my goal, and it should be everybody's goal. But also, it will help them, I think, realize their aspirations in a more systematic way. So, yeah, we started today, but I'm going to start with my kids on to-do lists and breaking things down into little things, and then they get to check off their lists. And these little bits that if nobody tells you to do, you don't start in the next generation, and then the next generation doesn't have it, and then they lose to people who do have it. So, and it's going to be a physical list, not like an online thing or electronic one. I think with the devices, you could use notes, and that's usually helpful, but I want to start out with just a physical planner. So the purpose of this show today was to make it okay for you to have someone else, some Negro on the internet, at least tell you that if you're thinking about taking the demotion, to spend time with your kids, and that's not making sense to you because other people are telling you that that's a ridiculous thing to do, I'm here to tell you that that might be the absolute right thing to do, especially if you got a lot of nonsense in your head about like what it is to be a man or what it is to be a father, to be a provider. This is a new world, man. This is a new world. Like, the most important thing you could do, I think, as like a father, might not be to earn the most amount of money, but to be a hard ass on your kids all the time about the world in a way that maybe nobody else is going to be. In the world that just wants to, like, give them candy or sugar or whatever. Like, not just candy and sugar in terms of food, but candy and sugar in terms of cultural enrichment. It's your job to be a hard ass, and all the time. And that might be the most important job in an extra modern society where there are all these enticements and everybody's telling them to go with their gut and do what they feel and not have discipline. It's going to be your job as a father to make sure that they're growing up with that kind of nonsense at a remove, and just kind of police them with respect to that. That's going to be as much, I think it's going to be probably more important than anything you could spend, any money, any extra money you could spend, right? So, look, my kids are fit, they're good musicians, they're excellent students, they're very well read, and all of that is because I wasn't particularly hard on my career. I'm writing a dissertation right now on divorce as a form of child abuse using Hegel and kind of his insight about how families are part of what the child's self is. Like the child's, families decide what children need. They decide how those needs are going to be met. And families are also the spring of activity that like realize those needs in the particular way. So all of that's kind of bound up in the family in the way that Hegel, I think, does pretty well. And so that's what I'm writing on. But, I'm writing pretty slowly because I'm spending most of my time actually, determining my kids' needs, the particular way those needs are going to get met, and then being the spring of activity that gets them up in the morning and manages their practice. And I'm like, everything's a concerted activity in this household. And they're doing very well. They're doing very well because I don't think the most important thing in my life is to go out and get money and then pay people to do this with my kids. I think, especially as a Black person and with institutions that don't have a great track record of creating Black excellence, I think it's my job and it's incumbent upon me as a parent to actually do the job. Like Richard Williams he couldn't have paid enough money to get someone else to do with his kids, especially when they were younger, what he did. He could have had an infinite amount of money, but the teachers, he couldn't have paid enough for the quality of instruction that he was able to deliver. You could say the same about Joe Jackson and a bunch of other Black fathers. But Like I said, I'm here to tell you that it's okay if you kind of calculate your life and you think, you know what, I think I'm going to take the demotion to do this right with my kids from 3 to 13. I'm saying that that's actually probably the smart move, because liberal society is going to confuse you about what that means. It's going to confuse you about what's important. And then before you know it, your kid, it's too late. You miss a window with these kids, and they already have the wrong set of entitlements. And once they have the wrong set of entitlements, it's going to take a whole crew. It's going to take $1 million to excise that entitlement out of them. So, yeah, take the time, work with your kids, take the demotion, be strategic about the demotion. You can get back in the game like once they're 13 at like a high level, but just like, don't let civil society promote you out of being a good parent. It's not worth it. The things you can buy are not worth the things you can buy for your kid are not worth what you can deliver to them through direct instruction. And take that direct instruction seriously, and just assume they're not going to learn anything else anywhere else. Doesn't matter the fancy school or whatever. Just assume it's got to come from you. And I think you'll have better kids. Fewer surprises. Once again, if you appreciate what I'm doing, go ahead and go to www.funkyacademic.com, kick in $5, $15, $50, and I will talk to you about something completely different tomorrow. Maybe not tomorrow, but soon. Peace.